video blog time, people, and this week has been actually a good week. I think this time of year I'm always a little bit on edge because of the changing of seasons, and for years it's been noted, this is a long time before you know, my illness horribilis and starting on medication and anything like that. I've always been affected by the changes to winter and to spring, and often October and February see a sort of acclimatisation process going on, and I often do feel sort of mentally oppressed by the dark, you know, that comes with changing the clocks back, which in fact happened this week. So British Standard Time is over now. That's what we use to govern British summertime, and it's we're back to GMT, so we've had to put our clocks back an hour, so we've had an extra hour. And I have to say that the way that I combat this is that I make sure that I get extra sleep. I do make sure I get extra sleep over this period of time, which isn't going to do me any harm anyway, but it just eases it. It's really a 2-3 week sort of process where I just get used to the fact that the light levels decreased, and of course in February it's really a case of being sick to death of the fact that it's not you know, it's not getting any better. And then of course it does. So you can probably hear my birds in the background. My zebra finches are making a lot of noise, and I'm afraid the breeding season is well and truly over. Beverly rejected her eggs yesterday after she didn't really incubate them very well, and then she threw them out the nest. I saw her do it. And then she ate them eventually, so that's that done. I've had enough. What I'm going to do now is start a process of getting them reacclimatised to being back in the aviary. It'll be a 2-week process because they've actually been out of the aviary about, well, since September, so it's been almost 2 months. So I'm going to give them 2 weeks inside the cage, inside the aviary, to get used to that before I release them. Obviously there's been news on the aviary front this week, and that's that the big switch on of the Aviary Heater occurred the night before it snowed. When I say snow, I mean it did snow. It was like a heavy ground frost with sort of snow in patches. It went, you know, later on that morning, so it wasn't really a proper snow, but it was more than a frost, and I have to say that they have responded very well. They started by fighting over who was going to get the warmest seat in the place over the heater, and then the next day they were ever so much cheerful for having had just that little blast of heat. I don't actually leave it on all night. I might leave it on all night on the thermostat when there's snow on the ground, but now it's just when it gets into, you know, 2 or 3 around the freezing point that I'll give them a blast for half an hour or so before I go to bed, and that just warms things slightly. The one thing I don't want to do with this heater is get them acclimatised to having to have it warm. They've got to be tough enough to exist outside basically in the elements. But when it is really cold, when it is snowing, they need that little extra heat, I believe. So that's sort of what I've done, and I'm glad to say that that seems to have worked quite well. So yes, do you know, I'm so sorry, but I've sort of just woken up, and I haven't really got a lot to report for this week anyway. So generally a good week, and yes, this weekend I shall hopefully get the blinds finished and put up, and this is the weekend that I'm going to be actually clearing the back and weeding out the front now dormancy has hit. The one thing that hasn't gone dormant is the heather, which is beginning to spread, bizarrely enough. I don't know whether, because heather sort of grows up on quite highly exposed places anyway, whether it basically doesn't go dormant across winter like a lot of other things do. It's still flowering and they have trebled in size. I mean, they were very, very small to begin with, so now they're just sort of reasonably sized, but it's a noticeable difference. The rest of it has all gone into dormancy, it really has, and the sort of grasses are deadish at the top. You know, the colour's gone, the green and the silver's gone, and they're all sort of yellow and crackly now. But I have been told to leave them to keep the crown, which is still alive, safe from frost. So that's what I'm doing for now. When I clear the back, hopefully this weekend, I'm going to plant my fruit trees. I bought 3 fruit trees. They were only £5 each, so I was quite pleased with that. And I got an apricot, a cherry, and a plum. So no doubt, pictures of that will follow.